The Zephyrian archaeological team had been digging through Earth's ruins for 3 solar cycles now. What had once been called North America by the extinct human species was nothing more than scattered debris fields and overgrown vegetation. The planet had been dead for over 2,000 years, according to their historical records. Humanity had supposedly wiped itself out in some primitive nuclear conflict, leaving behind only radioactive wastelands and crumbling cities. Commander Vexthara wiped the sweat from her scaled brow as she supervised the excavation. The Zephyrian High Council had commissioned this dig to study the remnants of human civilization. They wanted to understand how such a seemingly advanced species had managed to destroy itself so completely. It would serve as a cautionary tale for other developing worlds in their galactic federation. "Commander, you need to see this," called out her lead archaeologist, Dr. Kethmer. His voice carried an unusual tremor of excitement that made Vexthara's head crest rise with curiosity. She made her way down the excavation slope, careful not to disturb the delicate sensor equipment they had placed throughout the dig site. The team had uncovered what appeared to be some kind of military installation, though it was far more sophisticated than anything they had expected from the primitive humans. "What have you found?" she asked, approaching the area where Kethmer was crouched over a strange metallic surface that seemed to shimmer in the artificial lighting. "It's not what we found, Commander. It's what we haven't found." Kethmer stood up, his 4 arms gesturing excitedly. "This entire structure extends far deeper than our initial scans indicated, and these materials, they're not showing up on any of our traditional archaeological dating methods." Vexthara knelt down and placed her hand on the metallic surface. It was smooth, almost impossibly so, and seemed to radiate a subtle warmth despite being buried underground for millennia. "Have you tried the quantum resonance scanner?" "That's just it, Commander. The quantum scanner is giving us readings that make no sense. According to the device, this structure is only about 50 years old. But that's impossible. Humans have been extinct for 2,000 years. The commander felt a chill run down her spine. In her 40 years of archaeological work across dozens of worlds, she had never encountered anything like this. "Show me the readings." Kethmer handed her the portable scanner, and she watched as the display confirmed his claims. The quantum signature of the materials was indeed indicating a much more recent date than should have been possible. Either their equipment was malfunctioning, or there was something very wrong with their understanding of human extinction. "I want a full team down here," she ordered. "Deploy the deep excavation equipment. If this structure goes as deep as the scans suggest, we're going to need heavy machinery to uncover it properly." Over the next several days, the Zephyrian team worked around the clock to expose what was becoming increasingly clear was a massive underground facility. The structure was built with a level of engineering sophistication that challenged everything they thought they knew about human capabilities. The metallurgy alone was centuries ahead of what their historical records indicated humans should have been able to achieve. Dr. Yathara, the team's technology specialist, had been studying the exposed sections of the facility's exterior. "Commander, these aren't just advanced alloys. The molecular structure of this material is completely unknown to our science. It's as if the humans had access to technologies that we still haven't developed." "That's impossible," Vexthara replied, though her tone lacked conviction. "The humans were barely capable of primitive space flight when they destroyed themselves. Our records are very clear about their technological limitations." "Then perhaps our records are wrong," suggested Kethmer. "Or perhaps there's more to human civilization than we've been led to believe." As they continued to excavate, the scope of the underground facility became apparent. It wasn't just a building. It was an entire complex that stretched for kilometers in every direction. The construction was modular, with different sections clearly designed for different purposes. Some areas appeared to be living quarters, others looked like command centers, and still others contained equipment that none of the Zephyrian scientists could identify. It was Dr. Yathara who made the discovery that changed everything. She had been exploring one of the deeper sections when her scanner detected a massive hollow space beneath their current excavation level. "Commander, you need to come down here immediately. I think I've found the main chamber." When Vexthara arrived, she found Yathara standing before what appeared to be a sealed entrance of enormous proportions. The door, if it could be called that, was at least 50 meters tall and nearly as wide. Strange symbols were etched into its surface, clearly human in origin, but unlike any human writing system in their databases. "Have you attempted to open it?" the commander asked. "I was waiting for you, but Commander, the energy readings from beyond this door are significant. Whatever's in there is still active." The implications of that statement hung heavy in the air. If something was still active after 2,000 years, it suggested a level of technology that the Zephyrians themselves had only recently achieved. They were dealing with something far beyond what they had expected to find in the ruins of a supposedly primitive civilization. "Set up a full scanning array," Vexthara ordered. "I want to know everything about what's behind that door before we even think about opening it, and contact the High Council. They need to know about this immediately." The scanning process took nearly a full day. The results left the entire archaeological team in stunned silence. Beyond the massive door lay a chamber of incredible size, large enough to house several Zephyrian capital ships. But more shocking than the size was what the scans revealed about its contents. "Commander," Dr. Kethmer's voice was barely above a whisper. "The chamber isn't empty. There are structures inside, massive ones, and they're all giving off the same quantum signature as the facility itself." "Ships?" Vexthara asked, though she already suspected the answer. "That's what it looks like, but the size—" "Commander, some of these vessels are larger than our dreadnoughts, and there are dozens of them." The commander stared at the scanner display, trying to process what she was seeing. If these readings were accurate, they had discovered an underground fleet of human warships that dwarfed anything in the current Galactic Federation's arsenal. Ships that had been waiting in the darkness for 2,000 years. "Dr. Yathara, I need you to analyze the power signatures more closely. Are these ships actually functional?" The technology specialist spent several hours running detailed scans before delivering her report. "Commander, I don't understand how it's possible, but yes. These ships appear to be in full operational condition. Their power cores are active, their systems are online, and their weapons. Commander, the weapons signatures I'm reading are unlike anything I've ever seen." Vexthara felt her throat go dry. "Weapons? What kind of weapons?" "I'm not certain. The energy patterns don't match any known weapon systems in our databases. But the power levels—" "Commander, a single one of these ships appears to have more firepower than our entire expedition fleet." The archaeological mission had suddenly become something much more serious. They weren't just studying the ruins of an extinct civilization. They had stumbled upon a hidden military installation that could potentially threaten the security of the entire Galactic Federation. "Seal the excavation site," Vexthara ordered. "No one enters or leaves without my direct authorization, and get me a secure communication link to Fleet Admiral Zekthar immediately." As her team scrambled to implement the security protocols, Vexthara couldn't shake the feeling that they had uncovered something that was meant to remain hidden. The humans had built this facility with incredible care and sophistication. They had hidden it deep underground and protected it with materials that could last for millennia. This wasn't the work of a dying civilization. It was the work of a people preparing for something. The question that haunted her was, preparing for what? When the secure communication link was established, Admiral Zekthar's image appeared on the holographic display. The veteran military officer listened intently as Vexthara described their discoveries, his expression growing more concerned with each detail. "Commander, are you certain about these readings? A hidden fleet of this magnitude would represent a significant threat to galactic security." "I'm certain, Admiral. We've triple-checked everything. These ships are real, they're functional, and they're armed with weapons we don't understand." The Admiral was quiet for several long moments. "Commander, I'm dispatching the 3rd Battle Group to your location immediately. Until they arrive, I want you to maintain a defensive perimeter around the excavation site. Under no circumstances should you attempt to open that chamber." "Understood, Admiral. But, sir, there's something else you should know. We found personal logs and data storage devices throughout the facility. Dr. Kethmer has been working to decode them." "What do they say?" "That's just it, sir. They're not historical records. They're recent. Some of them are dated less than a century ago." The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Admiral Zekthar spoke, his voice carefully controlled. "Commander, are you telling me that humans may not be extinct?" "I don't know what I'm telling you, sir. But someone has been maintaining this facility. Someone with access to human technology and human knowledge. And whoever they are, they built this place to hide the most powerful fleet I've ever seen. After the communication ended, Vexthara stood alone in her command tent, staring out at the excavation site. The carefully ordered universe she thought she understood was beginning to crumble around her. Everything the Galactic Federation believed about human civilization, about Earth's history, about the nature of technological development, it was all being called into question by what they had found buried beneath the ruins. She thought about the massive ships sleeping in the darkness below, their alien weapons systems powered and ready after 20 centuries of waiting. What had the humans been preparing for? What threat had been so significant that they felt the need to hide an entire armada beneath the surface of their homeworld? And most disturbing of all, were they still out there somewhere, watching and waiting for the right moment to reclaim what they had left behind? Dr. Kethmer approached her tent, carrying a data tablet with the latest translation results. "Commander, you need to see this. I've managed to decode one of the more recent log entries." Vexthara took the tablet and read the translated text. Her blood went cold as she realized what she was looking at. Installation Commander's Log, star date 2847.3. The Watchers report increased activity in the outer systems. 3 more species have been incorporated into what they call their Galactic Federation. They continue to believe we are extinct. Phase 1 of the Lazarus Protocol remains on schedule. When the time comes, humanity will remind the galaxy why they feared us in the first place. She looked up at Kethmer, whose expression mirrored her own growing horror. "There are more entries like this. Dozens of them, Commander, all recent, all referencing something called the Lazarus Protocol and continued human operations throughout the galaxy." Vexthara realized with dawning terror that they weren't studying the ruins of a dead civilization. They were standing on top of humanity's greatest secret, a secret that suggested the human race was very much alive, very much active, and very much preparing for something that the Galactic Federation was completely unprepared to face. The archaeological expedition had become something else entirely. They were no longer uncovering the past. They were uncovering a hidden present that threatened to reshape the future of every species in the galaxy. Fleet Admiral Zekthar arrived at the excavation site aboard the dreadnought Asterisk Stellar Dominion with the full might of the 3rd Battle Group behind him. 12 heavy cruisers, 30 destroyers, and support vessels filled the space above Earth in the largest military deployment the Zephyrian Federation had mounted in over 50 years. Commander Vexthara met the Admiral at the landing pad they had hastily constructed near the dig site. The normally confident archaeological officer was visibly shaken by the discoveries of the past few days, and her distress was immediately apparent to the seasoned military commander. "Admiral, I'm grateful you arrived so quickly. The situation has evolved since our last communication." Zekthar's 4 eyes narrowed as he studied her expression. "More discoveries." "You could say that. Dr. Kethmer has decoded additional log entries, and we've detected movement within the underground facility. Whatever security systems the humans installed, they're responding to our presence." The Admiral's crest flattened against his skull, a sign of serious concern among his species. "Show me everything." As they walked toward the excavation site, Vexthara briefed him on the latest developments. The underground facility was far more extensive than they had initially believed, with multiple levels extending deep into Earth's crust. More disturbing still, their sensors had detected automated systems activating throughout the complex as their excavation had progressed. "It's as if the facility has been waiting for someone to find it," she explained. "The deeper we dig, the more systems come online. Dr. Yathara believes we've triggered some kind of awakening protocol." They reached the massive sealed entrance that the team had discovered days earlier. Now, however, the alien symbols etched into its surface were glowing with a soft blue light that pulsed in a steady rhythm. "This is new," Vexthara said quietly. "The illumination began yesterday evening, and Admiral, we've started detecting communication signals coming from inside the facility." Zekthar studied the glowing symbols with the practiced eye of someone who had spent decades analyzing alien technologies. "Have you been able to decode these transmissions?" "That's what's so disturbing, sir. We haven't needed to decode them. They're being broadcast in perfect galactic standard. Someone inside is speaking our language." Before the Admiral could respond, A new voice echoed from speakers that had somehow been integrated into the excavation site without anyone noticing their installation. "Good evening, Admiral Zekthar. I trust your journey from Zephyr Prime was pleasant." The entire Zephyrian team froze in place. The voice was distinctly human, speaking in accented but fluent galactic standard. More shocking still, it had addressed the Admiral by name and rank. "I am Installation Commander Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Initiative. I apologize for the dramatic circumstances of our first meeting, but I'm afraid your archaeological expedition has triggered protocols that I cannot ignore." Admiral Zekthar stepped forward, his hand instinctively moving to his sidearm. "You're human. Humans are supposed to be extinct." A sound that might have been laughter echoed from the speakers. "Reports of our extinction have been greatly exaggerated, Admiral, though I understand why you might believe otherwise. We've worked very hard to maintain that illusion." Why allow the galaxy to believe your species was dead?" "Because, Admiral, it was safer for everyone involved, including your people." The massive door began to move, sliding upward with a sound like distant thunder. Beyond it lay a vast chamber filled with artificial light that revealed row upon row of sleek, angular spacecraft that dwarfed anything in the Zephyrian fleet. "I think it's time we had a proper conversation," the human voice continued. "Please, bring a small team and join me inside. I have a great deal to explain, and I'm afraid recent galactic developments have made our continued isolation impossible." Admiral Zekthar looked at Commander Vexthara, who nodded grimly. Together, they selected a small escort team and approached the entrance to the hidden chamber. What they found inside challenged every assumption they had about human capabilities and intentions. The chamber was enormous, easily large enough to house the Admiral's entire battle group. Hundreds of human warships rested in individual docking bays, their hull designs unlike anything in current galactic databases. The ships were angular and predatory-looking, with weapon systems that seemed to bend space around their firing arrays. At the center of the chamber was a command platform where a single human figure waited for them. Sarah Chen appeared to be middle-aged by human standards, wearing a military uniform that bore insignia unfamiliar to the Zephyrian officers. Her dark hair was streaked with gray, and her eyes held the weight of someone who had seen far more than her appearance would suggest. "Welcome to Installation Lazarus," she said, gesturing to the massive space around them. "One of 17 such facilities hidden across Earth and her colonies." 17. Admiral Zekthar's voice was barely controlled. 17, Admiral, each one housing between 300 and 800 vessels of various classifications. This particular installation specializes in deep strike cruisers and stealth reconnaissance ships. The implications were staggering. If this was just one of 17 similar facilities, then humanity possessed a hidden fleet that numbered in the thousands of ships. Ships that appeared to be technologically superior to anything the Galactic Federation could field. "Commander Chen," Admiral Zekthar said carefully, "I must ask, what are your intentions regarding the Galactic Federation? Are we to consider humanity a threat to galactic peace?" Sarah Chen walked to the edge of the command platform, looking out over the assembled fleet. "That, Admiral, depends entirely on the Federation's response to certain information I'm about to share with you." She activated a holographic display that showed a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Various systems were highlighted in different colors, with connecting lines showing shipping routes and political boundaries. 200 years ago, humanity achieved faster-than-light travel and began exploring beyond our solar system. What we found was disturbing. The display zoomed in on a section of space that the Zephyrians knew as the Dark Zone, an area of the galaxy that was strictly avoided by all Federation species due to persistent reports of ships disappearing without explanation. "We discovered that your Galactic Federation, Admiral, is not the only spacefaring civilization in this galaxy. There are others, older civilizations, predatory civilizations, and they've been using the Federation as a hunting ground for centuries." Admiral Zekthar felt his throat constrict. "What do you mean, hunting ground?" "I mean, Admiral, that every few decades, entire Federation worlds simply vanish. Ships disappear, colonies go silent, and the Federation leadership writes it off as natural disasters, spatial anomalies, or primitive conflicts. They don't investigate too closely because they don't want to find the truth." Sarah Chen highlighted several systems on the display, all of them locations where Federation records showed unexplained disasters or mysterious disappearances. We found evidence of systematic harvesting, Admiral, species being taken for purposes we're still trying to understand, technology being stolen, entire biospheres being stripped clean and then abandoned. That's impossible, Commander Vexthara interjected. The Federation has existed peacefully for over 2,000 years. Has it? Sarah Chen's expression was grim. According to our calculations, the Federation should have a population at least 3 times larger than current records indicate. Where did all those missing billions go, Commander? She manipulated the display to show population charts and demographic data that painted a disturbing picture. Species that should have experienced natural population growth had instead shown mysterious declines. Colonies that should have thrived had failed for reasons that didn't make scientific sense. We realized, Sarah Chen continued, that humanity had a choice. We could join the Federation and become part of the hunting ground, or we could prepare to defend ourselves and eventually, if necessary, defend others. So you faked your own extinction, Admiral Zekthar said. We staged a very convincing nuclear war, yes. Created plenty of radioactive debris and atmospheric contamination. Made it look like we'd destroyed ourselves in a fit of primitive aggression. Meanwhile, our entire population was relocated to hidden colonies throughout the galaxy, and we began building what you see here. Sarah Chen gestured to the fleet surrounding them. The Terran Defense Initiative has been operating for nearly 2 centuries, Admiral. We've been watching, learning, and preparing. Our ships have been shadowing Federation vessels, protecting them from threats they never even knew existed. You've been protecting us? Commander Vexthara asked. Your species' commander has lost 17 deep space exploration vessels in the past century. According to Federation records, they were lost to spatial anomalies or mechanical failures. According to our records, they were attacked by entities from the Dark Zone. We managed to save the crews of 14 of those ships. The holographic display showed detailed tactical recordings of human ships engaging strange, organic-looking vessels in brutal space combat. The alien attackers moved in ways that defied conventional physics, their weapons seeming to tear holes in space itself. The survivors are currently residing in human space, Admiral. We've been caring for them while trying to understand the nature of the threat they faced. But our analysis suggests that these attacks are becoming more frequent and more aggressive. Admiral Zekthar stared at the tactical recordings, his military mind immediately recognizing the superior technology displayed by the human vessels. Their weapons were incredibly precise, their maneuvers impossibly fluid, and their defensive systems absorbed damage that would have vaporized any Federation ship. Why are you revealing all of this now? He asked. Sarah Chen's expression grew even more serious. Because, Admiral, our intelligence networks have detected a massive mobilization in the Dark Zone, something unprecedented. Hundreds of their harvester fleets are moving toward Federation space simultaneously, the largest offensive we've ever recorded. When? They'll reach the outer Federation worlds within 6 months. And Admiral, based on the size of this assault, we don't believe they're planning another harvesting operation. We believe they're planning complete extermination. The chamber fell silent except for the low hum of the ship's power systems. The implications of what Sarah Chen had revealed were almost too large to comprehend. Everything the Galactic Federation believed about their place in the galaxy, about their safety and security, was based on an illusion that humanity had helped maintain. What do you want from us? Admiral Zekthar asked finally. We want an alliance, Admiral. Humanity has the technology and the military capability to fight these entities, but we can't protect an entire galactic civilization on our own. We need the Federation to wake up, acknowledge the threat, and prepare to defend themselves. And if the Federation refuses to believe you, if they think this is some kind of human deception. Sarah Chen touched a control on her command console, and throughout the chamber, the hundreds of human ships began powering up their systems. The sound was like a symphony of thunder, and the energy readings from the vessels made the Zephyrian sensors overload with warning alerts. Then, Admiral, humanity will do what we've always done. We'll fight alone if we have to. But this time, the entire galaxy is at stake, and if we fall, there won't be anyone left to protect the Federation from what's coming. She looked directly at Admiral Zekthar, her eyes reflecting a determination that was unmistakably human. "The choice is yours, Admiral. Join us in preparing for the greatest fight in galactic history, or watch your civilization disappear like so many others before it. But either way, the age of human isolation is over. The Terran Defense Initiative is going active, and the galaxy is about to learn what humanity is really capable of." The massive ships around them continued their startup sequences, their weapon systems cycling online with mechanical precision. Admiral Zekthar realized he was witnessing the awakening of a military force that had been preparing for war for 2 centuries. A force that might be the only thing standing between civilization and extinction. Admiral Zekthar stood in the emergency session chamber aboard his flagship, addressing the holographic projections of the Galactic Federation Council. The 12 species that made up the Federation leadership listened with varying degrees of disbelief and alarm as he described the discoveries on Earth. "You're telling us," said Councillor Thesara of the Andorian Empire, "that humanity has been secretly protecting the Federation for 2 centuries while we believed them extinct." "That is correct, Councillor. And furthermore, they possess evidence of systematic attacks on Federation territory by unknown hostile entities." High Chancellor Vorthak of the Centauri Republic leaned forward in his projection. "Admiral, with all due respect, this sounds like an elaborate human deception. How do we know this isn't some kind of invasion pretext?" Before Admiral Zekthar could respond, a new holographic projection materialized in the chamber. Commander Sarah Chen appeared alongside the Admiral, having somehow accessed their secure communication frequency. "Because, Chancellor," she said calmly, "if humanity wanted to invade the Federation, we would have done so 2 centuries ago when your defenses were even more primitive than they are today." The council chamber erupted in alarm. "This is a secure channel," Councillor Thesara protested. "Yes, it is. Your quantum encryption is quite sophisticated. It took our computers almost 30 seconds to crack it." Sarah Chen's tone remained conversational, but the implications were clear. "Honorable Councillors, I'm Commander Chen of the Terran Defense Initiative. I'm here to provide you with information that your survival depends upon." High Chancellor Vorthak's reptilian features twisted with suspicion. "You claim to have been protecting us, yet you've been operating in our territory without authorization. That constitutes an act of war." "Does it?" Sarah Chen activated her own holographic display, showing detailed star charts of Federation space. "Let me show you something interesting, Chancellor." The display highlighted dozens of systems throughout Federation territory, each marked with temporal indicators. "These are the locations where TDI vessels have engaged hostile entities attempting to attack Federation ships or colonies. We have complete tactical recordings of each engagement." She selected one of the markers, and the display showed a detailed recreation of a battle between sleek human ships and something that defied easy description. The hostile vessels were organic-looking, with surfaces that seemed to shift and flow like living tissue. Their weapons fired streams of energy that appeared to corrupt space itself. This particular engagement took place 6 months ago in the Rigel system. A Zephyrian archaeological expedition was attacked by what our xenobiologists have classified as devourer entities. These are the same beings responsible for the disappearances that your government has been attributing to natural disasters. Councillor Melthar of the Silicon Collective, whose crystalline form sparkled with agitation, spoke up. "These recordings could be fabricated." "They could be," Sarah Chen agreed. "Admiral Zekthar, would you be willing to accompany a joint Federation human expedition to the Rigel system? The wreckage from this engagement should still be present." Admiral Zekthar nodded grimly. "The commander is correct. I can confirm that we did lose contact with an archaeological team in the Rigel system 6 months ago. It was officially classified as equipment failure." High Chancellor Vorthak's expression was growing more troubled. "Even if these recordings are authentic, why should we trust you? You've been deceiving us for centuries." Sarah Chen's demeanor became more serious. "Because Chancellor deception was the only way to ensure both human and Federation survival. Let me explain what really happened during humanity's supposed extinction." The holographic display changed to show Earth as it had appeared 200 years earlier, a vibrant blue world teeming with life and advanced technology. Humanity achieved faster-than-light travel in 2387. Our first deep space expeditions encountered evidence of the entities you've been calling natural disasters. Ancient battlefields, harvested worlds, entire species wiped from existence. We realized we had discovered a galaxy where predators used younger civilizations as prey. The display showed human exploration ships finding derelict worlds stripped of all life, massive graveyards of unknown spacecraft, and energy signatures that defied conventional physics. We faced a choice: join the Federation and hope that our combined strength would be enough, or develop our capabilities in secret until we could effectively defend ourselves and others. Given that Federation military technology was centuries behind what the Devourers possessed, we chose secrecy. Counselor Thisara interrupted. You could have shared your technological advances with us. Could we? Chancellor Vorthak, what would the Centauri Republic have done if a newly discovered species offered to share military technology that made your fleets obsolete? The High Chancellor's silence was answer enough. We studied your political structures, your military capabilities, your response patterns to threats. Every simulation we ran showed the same result. The Federation would have fractured into competing factions, each trying to claim human technology for themselves. The resulting chaos would have left everyone vulnerable. Sarah Chen manipulated the display to show a complex timeline of Federation history over the past 2 centuries. Hidden within the official records were dozens of incidents that took on new significance when viewed in context. So we faked our own destruction, relocated our population to hidden colonies, and began preparing for the real threat. Meanwhile, we've been operating as a shadow defense force, protecting Federation territory from attacks that your governments prefer not to acknowledge. Admiral Zekthar studied the timeline carefully. Commander, these incidents you've highlighted, many of them involved significant loss of life. Why didn't you intervene directly? We tried to, Admiral, but early attempts at direct intervention led to complications. When we rescued the crew of the Asterisk Stellar Pride from Devourer attack in 2423, we brought the survivors to the nearest Federation world. They were immediately imprisoned as security threats and subjected to intensive interrogation about their delusions of alien attack. The display showed classified Federation documents detailing the treatment of rescued personnel who had reported encounters with hostile aliens. Most had been declared mentally unstable and confined to medical facilities. We realized that the Federation leadership was psychologically incapable of accepting the truth, so we adapted our approach. We focused on prevention rather than cure, eliminating threats before they could reach Federation territory. High Chancellor Vorthak leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. Assuming we accept your version of events, what has changed? Why reveal yourselves now? Sarah Chen's expression grew grave. Because the situation has changed dramatically, Chancellor. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected unprecedented activity in what you call the Dark Zone. The Devourer entities are massing for what appears to be a final assault on this entire galactic arm. The holographic display shifted to show the current disposition of hostile forces. The scale was staggering, thousands of organic ships moving in coordinated formations toward Federation space. Our xenobiologists believe the Devourers operate on cycles, Chancellor. They allow civilizations to develop and grow, then harvest them when they reach optimal population density. But something has changed in their behavior patterns. Instead of gradual harvesting, they appear to be preparing for complete extermination. Counselor Melthar's crystalline structure resonated with a sound like breaking glass. How long do we have? 4 months, Counselor. Maybe 5 if we can slow their advance. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, High Chancellor Vorthak spoke. What do you propose? Full military alliance, Chancellor. Immediate integration of human and Federation defense forces under unified command. Complete sharing of technology and intelligence. And most importantly, full disclosure to all Federation populations about the nature of the threat they face. That would cause panic, Counselor Thisara objected. Counselor, with respect, your people are going to die if they're not prepared for what's coming. Panic is preferable to extinction. Admiral Zekthar stepped forward. I've seen the human fleet, Counselors. I've reviewed their tactical capabilities and their intelligence on these Devourer entities. Whatever reservations we might have about their methods, The fact remains that they appear to be our only chance of survival. Sarah Chen added another image to the display, a detailed schematic of one of the massive human warships. This is a Titan-class strategic cruiser. We have over 400 of them distributed among our hidden fleets. Each one carries enough firepower to eliminate a Devourer-Harvester group, but even with our technological advantages, we're outnumbered at least 50 to 1. High Chancellor Vorthak studied the ship's specifications with growing amazement. These weapon systems? How is such energy output possible? Zero-point energy manipulation, dimensional folding technology, quantum entanglement targeting systems. We've had 2 centuries to develop weapons specifically designed to fight entities that don't follow conventional physics. And you're willing to share this technology. Chancellor, we're willing to give you the complete technical specifications for our entire arsenal. Today, right now, because none of it matters if we can't coordinate our defense effectively. Sarah Chen brought up another display showing human colonies throughout the galaxy. We have 17 hidden worlds, Chancellor, with a combined population of over 3 billion humans. We're not asking you to trust us out of goodwill. We're asking you to trust us because our survival depends on your survival. The council members looked at each other, communicating through private channels. Finally, High Chancellor Vorthak spoke for the group. Commander Chen, the Federation accepts your proposal for military alliance, but we have conditions. I'm listening, Chancellor. First, complete transparency. No more hidden operations, no more secret fleets. Everything must be subject to joint oversight. Agreed. Second, joint command structure. Human forces will not operate independently of Federation oversight. Also agreed, with the understanding that combat decisions will be made by whoever has the most relevant expertise, regardless of species. Third, technological sharing must be mutual. Humanity gains access to Federation research and development resources. Sarah Chen smiled slightly. Chancellor, most of our technological development over the past 2 centuries has been based on Federation science. You'll essentially be getting back improved versions of your own research. High Chancellor Vorthak stood up from his chair. Then we have an alliance, Commander. Admiral Zekthar, you will coordinate with Commander Chen to establish joint operational commands immediately. We have 4 months to prepare the Federation for a war we never knew we were already fighting. As the council session ended, Admiral Zekthar turned to Sarah Chen. Commander, I hope you understand what you're asking of us. The Federation has never faced a military threat of this magnitude. Admiral, humanity has spent 2 centuries preparing for exactly this moment. We've studied every aspect of Devourer technology and tactics. We've built weapons specifically designed to fight them. And most importantly, we've learned that the one thing they consistently underestimate is the determination of species fighting for their survival. She gestured to the holographic display showing the approaching enemy fleets. They've harvested dozens of civilizations, Admiral, but they've never encountered a species that refused to accept extinction as inevitable. They're about to learn what happens when humanity says no. Admiral Zekthar felt something he hadn't experienced in years: hope. For the first time since learning of the approaching threat, he believed they might actually have a chance to survive what was coming. The transformation of the Galactic Federation's military capabilities in just 3 months was nothing short of miraculous. Admiral Zekthar stood on the bridge of the newly retrofitted Dreadnought * Stellar Unity *, watching as human and Federation engineers worked side by side to install weapons systems that seemed to bend the laws of physics. Integration at 97%, Admiral, reported Chief Engineer Korthani, a member of the Crystalline Collective whose silicon-based structure allowed him to interface directly with computer systems. The human zero-point energy cores are exceeding all performance expectations. Through the bridge viewports, Zekthar could see dozens of other Federation ships undergoing similar upgrades at the massive construction facility that had been the human colony of New Geneva. What had appeared to be an unremarkable asteroid field had revealed itself to be one of the largest shipbuilding complexes in the galaxy, hidden behind advanced cloaking technology. Commander Sarah Chen approached from the tactical station, where she had been overseeing the integration of human targeting systems with Federation shields. Admiral, I have the latest intelligence report from our deep space reconnaissance network. She handed him a data pad containing information that would have been unthinkable just months earlier. Human stealth ships had penetrated deep into Devourer territory, gathering intelligence on enemy movements and capabilities with a precision that astounded Federation military analysts. "The primary assault fleet is larger than we initially estimated," Sarah Chen reported. "Over 8,000 harvester ships supported by breeding vessels the size of small moons. But there's something else, Admiral, something we've never seen before." She activated a holographic display showing long-range sensor data from the approaching enemy force. At the center of the massive fleet was a structure that defied easy categorization. "Our xenobiologists are calling it a Genesis ship. It appears to be some kind of planet construction vessel. If our analysis is correct, they're not just planning to harvest this galactic arm, they're planning to terraform it for their own use." Admiral Zekthar studied the massive structure, trying to comprehend its implications. "How large is it?" "Approximately the size of Jupiter, Admiral, and it's surrounded by a defensive screen of over 1,000 capital ships." The scale of what they were facing was almost incomprehensible. Even with humanity's advanced technology and 2 centuries of preparation, the odds seemed impossible. "There is some good news," Sarah Chen continued. "The joint training exercises have exceeded all expectations. Federation crews are adapting to human tactical doctrines faster than we thought possible, and the technological integration is proving remarkably effective." She brought up tactical reports from the training facilities scattered throughout human space. Federation officers were learning to use weapons that could tear holes in spacetime, while human commanders were adapting to coordinate with the diverse species that made up the galactic community. "Captain Velthar of the Quantum Storm successfully executed a dimensional fold attack yesterday," Sarah Chen reported with evident pride. "She managed to position her ship inside the shields of a target drone and eliminate it before the enemy could react. It's a maneuver that would have been impossible with traditional Federation technology." Admiral Zekthar nodded approvingly. Captain Velthar was one of his most promising officers, and seeing her master human tactical innovations so quickly was encouraging. "What about the civilian evacuations?" he asked. "Proceeding ahead of schedule. Human colony ships have been modified to carry much larger populations than originally designed. We've successfully relocated the populations of 12 outer rim worlds to secure systems in the galactic core." The evacuation effort had been one of the most challenging aspects of the preparation. Convincing civilian populations to abandon their homes based on the threat of an enemy they had never heard of required a level of trust that the Federation government had never asked of its citizens before. Dr. Yathara approached from her station at the science console. The Zephyrian scientist had become one of the leading experts on human technology integration and had been instrumental in adapting Federation systems to work with zero-point energy cores. "Admiral, I have the final analysis on the dimensional weapon systems. The humans weren't exaggerating about their capabilities. A single Titan-class cruiser can generate the equivalent firepower of our entire pre-alliance fleet." She activated a technical display showing the internal structure of one of the human weapon systems. "The quantum entanglement arrays allow them to target enemies regardless of traditional defensive systems. Energy shields, armor plating, even spatial distortions. None of them provide protection against weapons that bypass normal space entirely." Admiral Zekthar marveled at the complexity of the technology. How did they develop such advanced systems in only 2 centuries? "That's what's so remarkable, Admiral. They didn't develop it from scratch. They took existing Federation scientific principles and pushed them to their logical extremes. Every major breakthrough was based on research that we had published in our academic databases." Sarah Chen smiled slightly. "Humanity has always been good at taking existing ideas and finding new applications for them, Doctor. When your survival depends on being better than an enemy who's been harvesting civilizations for millennia, you become very motivated to innovate." A communication alert sounded from the bridge's command center. "Admiral," called Communications Officer Thixara, "incoming priority message from Fleet Command." The holographic projection of Fleet Admiral Korthak materialized on the bridge. The elderly Andorian commander looked exhausted but determined as he delivered his report. "Admiral Zekthar, the mobilization is complete. All 17 Federation fleets have been equipped with human technology and integrated with TDI forces. Total combined strength, 4,700 ships of all classes. Impressive numbers, Admiral Zekthar replied, though he knew they were still outnumbered almost 2-1 by the approaching enemy. There's more, Admiral. The human deep strike capability has allowed us to establish forward bases in systems the Devourers haven't reached yet. We've got early warning networks extending almost to the edge of the dark zone, and our intelligence on enemy movements is better than anything we've ever had. Sarah Chen stepped forward. Admiral Korthak, have the Devourer forces changed their approach vector? No, Commander. They're maintaining their original course toward the Centauri Republic's outer colonies. Estimated time to first contact, 36 days. Then they're still following their traditional harvesting patterns. That gives us a significant tactical advantage. Admiral Zekthar turned to her with interest. How so? The Devourers have been successful for so long that they've become predictable, Admiral. They always target the most heavily populated worlds first, and they always approach along the shortest route from their staging areas. It's efficient, but it also means we know exactly where they'll be. She activated the tactical display, showing the projected path of the Devourer fleet through Federation space. They're expecting to encounter resistance equivalent to a pre-spaceflight civilization with maybe some primitive energy weapons. Instead, they're going to run into concentrated firepower that can match their own technological capabilities. The element of surprise won't last long, Admiral Zekthar observed. No, it won't, but it should last long enough for us to eliminate their advance forces and disrupt their attack formation. Once they realize what they're facing, they'll adapt their tactics. But by then, we should have significantly reduced their numerical advantage. Dr. Yathara brought up another display showing the current disposition of Allied forces. The integration of human stealth technology has been particularly effective, Admiral. We now have over 200 ships that are completely undetectable by traditional sensor systems. They can position themselves anywhere in the target zone without the enemy knowing they're there. Ambush tactics, Admiral Zekthar mused. Not something the Federation has traditionally employed. No, Admiral, Sarah Chen agreed. But then the Federation has never faced an existential threat before. Desperate times require new approaches. A new voice joined the conversation as Captain Marcus Webb, one of the senior human officers, approached from the navigation station. Admiral, we've received confirmation from all hidden installations. Every TDI fleet is ready for deployment, and the Lazarus Protocol is fully active. The Lazarus Protocol? Admiral Zekthar asked. Sarah Chen's expression became grim. Our contingency plan, Admiral. If the primary defense fails, we have prepared positions throughout the galaxy where we can continue resistance operations. Hidden bases, concealed fleets, and enough industrial capacity to maintain a guerrilla war for decades if necessary. You're planning for defeat. We're planning for survival, Admiral. Humanity learned long ago that hope is not a strategy. We prepare for the worst possible outcome while fighting for the best one. Captain Webb added, the Federation civilian populations are being briefed on emergency protocols, Admiral. If the worst happens, we have evacuation routes planned to move essential personnel to secure locations in human space. Admiral Zekthar appreciated the thorough planning, but he also recognized the psychological burden it placed on everyone involved. They were preparing to fight a war where failure meant the extinction of their entire civilization. What about morale? He asked. How are the crews handling the pressure? Better than expected, Sarah Chen replied. There's something about having a clear enemy and a definite mission that brings out the best in people. The joint training exercises have also built strong bonds between human and Federation personnel. Dr. Yathara nodded in agreement. The cultural exchange has been remarkable, Admiral. I've learned more about human problem-solving approaches in the past 3 months than I did in 30 years of studying their archaeological remains. And we've learned that Federation species have capabilities we never fully appreciated, Captain Webb added. The crystalline collective's ability to interface directly with computer systems has revolutionized our targeting accuracy. The Andorian tactical simulations have improved our strategic planning by at least 30%. Admiral Zekthar felt a surge of pride in what their combined forces had accomplished. In just 3 months, They had transformed from separate civilizations into a unified military alliance capable of challenging an enemy that had dominated the galaxy for millennia. "Final preparations?" he asked. Sarah Chen consulted her data pad. "All fleets will be in position within 72 hours. Intelligence networks are active and providing real-time enemy movement data. Civilian evacuations from target zones are 96% complete. Weapon systems are fully integrated and tested. Command and control networks are operational and secure." She looked up at Admiral Zekthar with an expression of quiet confidence. "Admiral, for the first time in 2 centuries, humanity isn't facing this threat alone. And for the first time in their history, the Federation has allies who know exactly what they're fighting and how to fight it." Admiral Zekthar nodded slowly. "Then we're as ready as we're going to be. Signal all commands. Operation Unity begins in 72 hours. It's time to show these devourers what happens when they underestimate the determination of free peoples fighting for their survival." As the bridge crew began implementing final preparations, Admiral Zekthar stood looking out at the combined fleet assembling around New Geneva. Human ships with their angular, predatory designs flew alongside Federation vessels with their smooth, elegant curves. It was a sight that would have been impossible just months earlier, but now represented their only hope for survival. The greatest battle in galactic history was about to begin, and for the first time since learning of the threat, Admiral Zekthar believed they actually had a chance to win. The first contact occurred exactly where Sarah Chen had predicted it would, in the Kepler 442 system, just outside the Centauri Republic's outer territories. Admiral Zekthar watched from the bridge of the Asterisk Stellar Unity as the Devourer Advance fleet emerged from hyperspace, their organic ships materializing like nightmarish sea creatures rising from dark depths. "Enemy contact confirmed," reported Tactical Officer Vexara. "Initial count, 300 harvester vessels, 12 breeding ships, and what appears to be a command structure of unknown classification." Through the viewports, the enemy ships were visible as dark silhouettes against the star field. They moved with an unsettling fluidity that defied conventional physics, their hulls seeming to shift and pulse as if they were alive. "All stealth forces, maintain position," Admiral Zekthar commanded. Throughout the system, nearly 200 Allied ships remained hidden behind advanced cloaking technology, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Commander Sarah Chen studied the enemy formation from her position at the Strategic Planning Station. "They're following standard harvesting protocol, Admiral. Advanced scouts moving to assess planetary defenses, main force maintaining formation at the edge of the system." "Just as you predicted," Admiral Zekthar observed. "The Devourers have been successful for so long that they've become overconfident, Admiral. They're expecting token resistance from primitive energy weapons. They have no idea what they're about to face." The enemy scouts approached the inner system, their sensors probing for signs of civilization. What they found was the abandoned shell of a colony world, its population safely evacuated to secure systems in the galactic core. "Scout vessels are reporting to the main force," Communications Officer Vexara announced. "Intercepted transmissions suggest they're confused by the lack of population on the target world." Sarah Chen smiled grimly. "They're about to be a lot more confused. Admiral, recommend we begin Phase 1. "All units, this is Admiral Zekthar. Operation Unity is now active. Execute Phase 1. The first indication that something was wrong came when the Devourer scouts simply vanished. One moment they were conducting their reconnaissance, the next they had been eliminated by weapons fire that seemed to come from empty space. Human stealth cruisers materialized around the confused enemy formation, their dimensional weapons tearing through alien hulls with surgical precision. The attack lasted less than 30 seconds, but when it was over, the entire Devourer scouting force had been eliminated without managing to send a warning to their main fleet. "Phase 1 complete," reported Captain Webb from the TDI Command ship Prometheus Asterisk. "All enemy scouts eliminated. No survivors, no communications to main force." The Devourer main force waited for several hours for their scouts to report back. When no communication came, they began moving deeper into the system, their formation becoming more cautious but still following predictable patterns. "They're adapting faster than usual," Sarah Chen observed, "but they're still thinking in terms of conventional threats." Admiral Zekthar activated the fleet-wide communication system. All units, prepare for Phase 2. Remember, the element of surprise is our greatest advantage. Make every shot count. The Devourer main force was halfway through the system when the ambush began. Federation ships materialized from behind asteroid fields and planetary debris, their newly installed zero-point energy weapons opening fire with devastating effect. Simultaneously, human ships decloaked throughout the enemy formation, their quantum entanglement weapons striking targets with impossible accuracy. The battle was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. Federation crews fought with human weapons that could bypass traditional defenses, while human commanders coordinated with alien allies whose diverse capabilities provided tactical flexibility the Devourers had never encountered. Captain Velthar of the Quantum Storm executed a perfect dimensional fold attack, positioning her ship inside the shields of a massive Devourer breeding ship. Her zero-point energy cannons fired at point-blank range, and the enemy vessel simply ceased to exist, leaving only expanding debris where a kilometer-long ship had been moments before. "Outstanding work, Captain," Admiral Zekthar commended through the communication link. "All units, focus fire on the larger vessels. Don't let them adapt to our tactics." The Devourer forces were clearly struggling to understand what they were facing. Their organic ships twisted and writhed as they tried to avoid weapons that didn't follow conventional physics. Energy beams that bent space itself struck them from impossible angles, while quantum torpedoes materialized inside their hulls without warning. Dr. Yathara, monitoring the battle from her science station, provided running commentary on enemy behavior. "Admiral, the Devourers are attempting to coordinate a defensive formation, but their communications are being disrupted by our quantum interference systems. They can't maintain unit cohesion." "Excellent, all units press the attack. Don't give them time to reorganize." The battle raged for 6 hours, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The Devourer advance force had expected to face primitive resistance and instead encountered the most advanced military technology in the galaxy. When the last enemy ship was eliminated, the Allied fleet had achieved a complete victory with minimal casualties. "Tactical assessment," Admiral Zekthar requested. Sarah Chen reviewed the battle data with evident satisfaction. Total enemy casualties, 347 ships eliminated. Allied casualties, 12 ships damaged, none destroyed, 34 personnel injured, 0 fatalities. The success of the first engagement sent shockwaves through both Allied and enemy forces. For the Federation crews, it proved that they could fight and win against an enemy that had seemed invincible. For the Devourers, it represented their first significant defeat in millennia. "Admiral," Communications Officer Thixara announced, "we're receiving priority transmissions from deep space monitoring stations. The main Devourer fleet is altering course." Sarah Chen studied the new intelligence data with growing concern. "They're splitting their forces, Admiral. Instead of one massive assault, they're dividing into smaller fleets and approaching from multiple vectors." Admiral Zekthar felt his stomach tighten. "They're adapting to our tactics." "Yes, they are, and they're doing it faster than we anticipated. Admiral, we need to contact Fleet Command immediately. The strategic situation has changed." The holographic projection of Fleet Admiral Korthak appeared on the bridge within minutes of their request for communication. "Admiral Zekthar, congratulations on the victory However, I'm afraid we have new challenges to address." The display showed updated intelligence on Devourer fleet movements. The massive enemy Armada had indeed split into 17 separate forces, each one approaching Federation space from a different direction. "They're forcing us to divide our own forces," Admiral Zekthar realized. "We can't concentrate our firepower against a single target." "Precisely," Fleet Admiral Korthak confirmed. "But there's more. Our deep space reconnaissance has detected something else. The Genesis ship we identified earlier is moving independently of all other forces. It's heading directly for the galactic core." Sarah Chen studied the trajectory with growing alarm. "They're not just adapting their tactics, they're changing their entire strategy. If they can't harvest the Federation territories systematically, they'll bypass them entirely and strike at the heart of our civilization." "What's at the galactic core that they would want?" Admiral Zekthar asked. "The quantum stabilization stations," Dr. Yathara answered quietly. If they destroy those, the artificial gravity wells that hold our core systems together will collapse. It would be genocide on a galactic scale. The implications were staggering. The quantum stabilization stations were ancient technology, built by the first spacefaring civilizations and maintained by the Federation for over 2,000 years. They were the foundation that allowed dense stellar populations to exist without gravitational chaos tearing solar systems apart. "How long do we have?" Admiral Zekthar asked. Sarah Chen performed rapid calculations on her data pad. At current velocity, the Genesis ship will reach the core systems in approximately 40 days. But Admiral, stopping that thing won't be like the battle we just fought. It's defended by over 1,000 capital ships, and the vessel itself is the size of a gas giant. What do you recommend? We need to maintain our defensive operations against the smaller fleets while simultaneously organizing a strike force capable of taking out the Genesis ship. It means dividing our forces even further, but we don't have a choice. Fleet Admiral Korthak leaned forward in his projection. "Commander Chen, what kind of force would be required for an operation of that magnitude?" "Every Titan-class cruiser we have, supported by the most advanced Federation ships available. Even then, success isn't guaranteed. We'd essentially be mounting a suicide attack against impossible odds." Admiral Zekthar felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders. They had achieved one victory, but the war was far from over. The enemy had shown they could adapt and evolve their tactics, which meant the Alliance would need to do the same. "Admiral Korthak, I volunteer the Asterisk Stellar Unity and my battle group for the Genesis ship mission." "Admiral, that's essentially a death sentence," Sarah Chen protested. "Maybe, but if we fail to stop that ship, everyone in the galaxy dies anyway. At least this way we're choosing how to fight." Sarah Chen was quiet for several moments, then nodded slowly. "Admiral, if you're determined to proceed with this mission, then humanity will provide everything we have. Every Titan-class cruiser, every stealth ship, every experimental weapon we've developed. If we're going to die, we'll die fighting." Dr. Yathara looked up from her calculations. "Admiral, there might be another option. The quantum stabilization stations themselves, they're not just defensive infrastructure. They're also incredibly powerful energy sources, if we could modify them to function as weapons." Sarah Chen's eyes widened with understanding. "You're talking about turning the galactic core into a fortress, using the stations themselves as the ultimate defense." "Exactly. But it would require evacuating billions of people from the core systems and completely restructuring the quantum field generators. It's never been attempted before." Admiral Zekthar considered the proposal. "How long would such modifications take?" "Unknown, Admiral. We're talking about engineering on a scale that's never been attempted. But the alternative is watching our entire civilization die." Fleet Admiral Korthak spoke up from his projection. "Admirals, I'm authorizing both operations simultaneously. Admiral Zekthar will lead the strike force against the Genesis ship, while Dr. Yathara coordinates the quantum station modifications. Commander Chen, I need every piece of advanced technology humanity can provide." Sarah Chen stood at attention. "You have it, Admiral, all of it." As the planning began for what would either be the salvation or destruction of galactic civilization, Admiral Zekthar reflected on how much had changed in just a few months. The galaxy had discovered that humanity wasn't extinct, that ancient enemies had been hunting them for millennia, and that their survival depended on technologies that challenged everything they thought they knew about physics. But more importantly, they had discovered that when different species worked together toward a common goal, they could achieve things that none of them could accomplish alone. The Devourers had spent millennia harvesting civilizations that fought alone and afraid. They had never encountered a galaxy willing to unite in its own defense. "All units," Admiral Zekthar announced over the fleet communication system, "prepare for the greatest challenge in galactic history. We're going to show these Devourers what happens when they threaten free peoples who refuse to surrender." The war for galactic survival was entering its decisive phase, and Admiral Zekthar was determined that when it ended, it would be freedom, not extinction, that ruled the stars.